Hello my loves, welcome to a new vlog. It is cool down in Paris. It is going to be basically raining for the whole week. And we're gonna have temperatures that are in the high of the 70s, which is gonna be perfect. For those of us who live here, it will be wet, it will be humid, but at least it will be, we will sleep again. So I'm about to go out and take a walk. Normally, I'm not a big walk in the rain girl, except in Montmartre. Another reason why I say Montmartre is great for summer. Don't want any parts of it in the winter. But I'm going to take a walk just because I've talked about it before, about how I have like the anxiety attacks, and how they started because of, you know, my working in a law firm and working in the legal industry and all of that. And unfortunately, you know, I've been really struggling with them this week, and I don't know why. Sometimes it just like comes on me and I literally can't do anything about it. And walks help. But I think part of what it is due to is because I'm really trying to sort out what is like a normal, because, you know, I moved to France the day before lockdown. So for 2 years, life in France was just very, very chaotic, as it was in the whole world, right? So that was basically it, like 2.5 years. You know, life was very, like, all over the place, very topsy-turvy. And particularly in France, we had confinements, we had curfews, then we would go into confinement, then a curfew, and then back and forth. Like, it was like yo-yos. And so I lived like that for so long that I was just like, well, everything's up in the air. But the thing is now, you know, the world has kind of moved on to what is a new normal. But for me, because my arrival in France was so not normal, I've been really struggling this year with trying to find like what that baseline of normal is in France, because I never had that. At least I have like that level of normal and stability as far as, you know, my status here in France, which is obviously something I never thought about before in America, but then also in my housing, which is, again, something I never thought about in America, because our system works so differently. So those things have been like a good place of establishing normal, and now it's about really establishing like some sort of normal in my professional world and my professional life, and really sorting through that. And that is where it's feels very still unstable, because I'm moving out of one thing and then moving into another, and there is just like, there's instability in that, and I really want that, like that stability coming in, and I'm really, really pushing hard to have it done. I'm probably pushing myself too hard. It's probably why I'm dealing with the anxiety attacks, is I'm like, go for it, Adri. But that's me, you know, I'm a perfectionist, and I go for what I want, and I pursue the things that I dream of. So, yeah. One of the things that's so interesting about living in a Parisian apartment is the intimacy that you have with your neighbors. I am watching one of my male neighbors work out right now. He has the windows open. At least when the windows are closed, you know, like the reflection kind of blocks people from really being able to see fully into your house. But when the windows are open, you can see directly into people's houses, and he is doing a workout in his boxer shorts in front of an open window. There's nothing I can do to not see him. I will see him as I walk around the apartment. And he has a lovely poster in the background. I like that movie poster, actually. I think I know that movie. If I were to open the window right now, I could tell you exactly what that movie poster is. That's how intimately we all live with each other. But anyway, so I think I'm gonna go for a walk, and we're gonna do, maybe I'll take you with me. I'll take you on my walk with me, because my walks are good for, you know, when I feel that sense of like unshakiness. I have to do something that at least was a normal for me when I arrived, and one of my normals when I arrived is I used to just walk all of Paris. Yeah. Let's go. We are in the 7th Arrondissement of Paris. I'm going to be frank in saying that I don't come here that often, but it is a great arrondissement for a balade. And there is one thing about this arrondissement that is particularly special. You may have heard of it before, but I'm going to kind of show you like what I think is kind of the highlight of this arrondissement. But it's really cool because on this half over here, there are lots of like restaurants and stuff like that. And if you walk all the way down in that direction on that side of the street, all the way down there, it is there's a lot of shops. It's called Rue de Commerce. And there are tons of shops, tons of like small independent shops and independent businesses where you can get really cute, cool stuff. If you follow me on Insta, you already know one place that I love that's down there is called Triptyque, and it's just like a cute little store with just so many cute homeware stuff. So anyway, one of the things I love about this neighborhood, I love how the buildings are just so beautiful. Like all of the apartment buildings are just like, oh la 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 la. They are stunning. Like, look at this. Look at that on the corner. Isn't that beautiful? Like, so beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to show you some of the highlights of this neighborhood because we're going to take my walk, my anxiety walk, and I'm going to feel better. So yeah, let's go. So one of the things I've been thinking about lately a lot is how what I thought was normal in the US, I really have come to understand over the past like 4 or 5 years is not normal, and how I had to like adjust to that. So just
I'll give you some examples. So, in the French healthcare system, I've talked about this, there are like 3 different sectors. And I think from our perspective as Americans, we think, oh, if it's more expensive, it's better. So essentially, sometimes, that would lead me to be, okay, well, I'm going to pay for a Sector 2 doctor instead of Sector 1. But in France, that fundamentally doesn't exist because customer service doesn't exist in France. So you can pay more for a Sector 2 doctor, but that doctor isn't necessarily going to be better than a Sector 1. And so often I hear Americans be like, oh, you need to avoid Sector 1. I'm like, y'all, my primary care doctor is Sector 1, and he is phenomenal. Like, he is so, so good. But they would never discover him because they think, Sector 1 is what you don't pay for. Another thing, that I've also noticed is, for example, American consumerist culture and the way that we shop. So when I first arrived in France, I used to shop a lot. I mean, part of that is because luxury here is cheaper. So, you know what? No big deal, right? And also I was living a completely different life. But one of the things I notice is how strong American consumerism culture is from some of the comments I sometimes get on my video. So, if you take that video where I talked about, how I pack for 2 weeks in a carry-on. And I told you guys all about my away luggage, and I showed you everything. And there were so many people in the comments like, oh, this is an ad for Away. And I responded to each one like, this is not an episode of Black Mirror. I think the reason why so many people just assume that had to be, me selling Away stuff, like some sort of ad, is because selling is so much, consumerism is the foundation of American society and the foundation of American culture. So naturally, you would assume that, right? Even when I did the review of that zip thingamajiggy, there were people who were like, well, obviously you're not going to give us an impartial review. It's like, well, why wouldn't I? Why would I sit up and lie about that? That is something that I think is so normal in American culture that it's like I'm constantly feeling like, you guys, it's not a Black Mirror episode, but it's so normal for us. And one of the things I've had to learn is that so many of the things that culturally are normal to us are not normal anywhere else. That's why my adjustment of finding this new normal has been something that's so important to me. It's just because I've had to shed so much of what was normal. One of my friends, he said something very interesting. He goes, when Americans first move here, it's so cheap to them compared to America that they just spend and spend and spend. He goes, and then one day you all look around and you're like, wait a second, I need to live like somebody who otherwise lives here. And he was like, and then the whole way you spend money changes. And I was like, that is exactly what happened to me. The whole way that I spend money now is completely differently than I spent money 5 years ago. 5 years ago, every single day, I would go sit in the cafe, I'd have a rosé, I'd have fries, or something like that. I'd have coffees all over Paris. And then one day, I was just like, yeah, I don't need to spend money like that anymore. I'm not really shopping that much anymore. I love to shop. I love beautiful clothes. I love beautiful things, right? I'm not going to deny that, but I feel no desire to go buy anything because, one, part of that has to do with what I consider to be quality control issues, which I think there are serious quality control issues as far as just clothing today. But also, yeah, I just don't need to spend my money like that. There's so many activities you can do in France, particularly in Paris, that are free. Why do I need to spend any money to have fun? So I found I live on so much less now than I did in the US. And that is due to the fact that what I thought was normal is no longer normal. And, I think it's that shaking of that normal. So in some ways, I have found normal, right? I found normal as far as, living, some of the ways in which to live more French. quote unquote. But then there are other ways in which I'm sorting through normal and what it means to have normal here in Paris. So yeah, those are just some reflections on a Sunday after church. And in all this talking, I have managed to successfully avoid at least 15 piles of dog poo. So props to me to talk to you and still avoid the dog poo. You know that's a sign that I'm like a legit Parisian.
One of the things about me is that I love to bake, and I've always loved to bake. And in, you know, the weirdest thing that I could possibly ever imagine, I ultimately ended up moving to France with my KitchenAid mixer, my American KitchenAid mixer, and I don't really know why I did that, other than the fact that it was chaotic. So, to this day, sitting in a storage unit is my pink American KitchenAid mixer. But you can't use that in France. Ultimately, finally, during the solds, I splurged, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, and I finally got a French KitchenAid mixer, and I love it. And it's been so nice to get back to doing something that I love. As part of this week and just thinking about finding kind of reclaiming some of my old habits and then finding new ones, like allowing this experience that I've had to change me, I realized that it made absolutely no sense for me to keep my KitchenAid in a cabinet and have to pull it out every time I wanted to bake something, because it was just like a barrier to doing something that I love and something that brings me joy. So I have cleared off this little area, and I have now made it for the KitchenAid mixer instead of the fruit basket, and you know, that will frankly probably suit me better. I have to accept the fact that, like, it's not all going to be, I'm not going to find, like, whatever normal I'm looking for, I'm not going to find it immediately, right? Like, it's not going to happen all at one time, which I know, of course, it's going to be a process, but my little go-getter attitude makes me want to be like, yeah, let's go for it now. So it's about, like, for me, like, finding little ways of bringing it and sorting through it and just, like, kind of giving it that time. And so one of the ways is with my KitchenAid mixer. Today we're going to make some cookies. Oatmeal chocolate chip cookies, because those are my favorite. So let's whip up some cookies and then eat said cookies. I'm going to pop these last few cookies in the oven, and then I will be off. I hope you've enjoyed this video. You know, as I mentioned, normal is something that I'm finding. It's a process. It's not gonna happen overnight, and I have to stop pushing myself to always want things to happen so quickly, because it's not good for me. And also to remind myself that there are some things that were always normal to me, like baking, that can still be an anchoring point of what is kind of part of normal life in France, right? I think one of the things that happens when you move abroad is you feel almost like you have to reinvent yourself. And, you know, you become like this Christopher Columbus of your new country. And, you know, it's about, I don't know, I think for me and kind of sorting through the normal, it's about accepting that I don't have to reinvent myself. Like, that's not why I moved to France, right? I have to reclaim some of the aspects of my personality that I lost while grinding away. But, you know, it's okay. It's okay. And it's gonna be a minute. I'm taking my time, I'm figuring out, but, you know, it's all gonna be okay. And so I just have to constantly remind myself of that, because I'm a perfectionist who can't ever let anything go.